Hey guys, this is Brian with Retread Paintball. This is part 3 of a series we've been doing on issue that I and some other folks have been reporting with, some of the spires that are out there. If you've seen my other 2 videos, you can see I was able to reproduce it. I have another spire which we were able to use to test. Also, this one does not have an issue. So I was able to kind of go back and forth, use different paints, use different guns and everything. And we've limited it, lowered it down to basically an issue with the board here, probably, on this one. And the sensor setting that comes from the folks that actually Virtue gets the sensor from for this. And it's not the shock sensor, but I think it's the tension sensor that lets it know when to stop spinning when it feels resistance. So anyway, by the way, these are the spring fingers that you can get from Virtue that I've actually really liked quite a bit, and I get asked about when I'm out on the field. And I play like every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend. Last weekend was twice a weekend, so I'm still cleaning stuff up here. But anyway. The replacement board from Virtue came today, or actually came yesterday, but it's light enough now that I can do this. And I was hoping to go shoot outside, but it's raining. So we'll see if it stops raining, and if necessary, we'll do this in 2 parts. But I at least wanted to get the board or look at the board today. So the board for these things is this guy here. It's pretty small, pretty darn tiny. So, but very advanced, looking in terms of, this could come right out of your laptop or something. You wouldn't even know. So, you look at some of the circuit boards on some stuff in paintball and it's very minimal. So anyway, this is the one that came from Virtue as a replacement. And the only thing so far that I'm noticing here different on this versus the one that's in here, and we'll look at these like side by side, is that this one is V6.6 down here in the right-hand corner. So I'm sure that's a version number or something of a build or an order number or something. So maybe there's a run that's a little bit different. Anyway, so this one, this is what came, and then the one that's in this hopper is actually, I think, it's a higher number. So if you look, I don't know if you can see, but it's V7.0. So usually a .0 version indicates like a new series versus like V6.6 would be like a major release would be like, sorry, I'm a computer engineer. So like V6 would be like your base release, and then each iteration above that. So this may be 6 iterations of this design. And I can't speak for Virtue, I just don't know, but I'm just giving you my kind of like 2 cents here. So essentially, this is a 7.0, and when I saw that, I went and then looked at this guy, and this guy here is also a V6.6. So if you look at all 3 boards, and especially side by side, a 6.0 or 6.6 and a 7.0. I'm also seeing that there's a harness on this one here on this end that is not on this end. So that may have been a feature that they were planning to do at one point that they didn't end up doing, or something else. But other than that, just kind of comparing back and forth, don't see anything so far that jumps out at me immediately as, oh my god, look, that's completely different. Oh, here, there's a chip here on this side, the bottom left. It looks like a resistor, actually, that isn't on this one. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with this one way or the other. As you go along, a lot of times they find that it's more efficient and that they don't need these resistors, in terms of voltage changes and things. So they may have eliminated that on the newer board. And that's okay. I mean, you expect you're going to improve, and if they can, that's one less part that they need, then they can make it more profitable for each subsequent release of their product. Things like that happen all the time with computers and whatnot. So, I mean, I've seen motherboards, and you can look at cheap motherboards and expensive motherboards, and you can see a big difference when it comes to parts and things, even though they essentially function the same or similarly. But in any case, that's the only big difference there, and you can see it again on this. The 6.6 board looks just like this 6.6 board. So anyway, the plugs look about the same. Wires look the same. So far, that's what I see, at least from the front. And I can't see the back of these, obviously, with them being tucked in here. You can see a little bit. Nothing that jumps out right away. So one thing I noticed too was, you see these, the wires are zip tied to the bottom. And you want to make sure that, I've seen where before my board wasn't, or my tray wasn't sitting right, because these little, these nubs on the end of the zip tie were turned like this, right? One of them was like this, and I probably did that myself by accident, cleaning it or something. And then I was putting it back into the tray and wondering, you know, like why it wasn't sitting right. So make sure those are kind of tucked to the side, and it should be fine. But anyway, what we're going to have to do is remove the batteries, cut the zip ties. So I've got a bag of similar replacement zip ties that are pretty much same size, just clear instead of black. And, you know, we'll unscrew these two screws, it looks like, and unplug the board from these three connectors, and then plug the new board or replacement board in. So we'll see how that goes. In this one we were just using, for example, or in comparison, and this one works great. I was playing with this one this weekend, and I just basically used this in the shell and worked great. So basically, let's see. Oh, and I got my cutter here. Cool. Thought I left this upstairs. All right. So first things first, before you get into this, I would definitely recommend, anytime you work on electronics, you remove the power source. So just pop out these batteries. And even maybe cycle the power button a couple times, just make sure, you know, any residual power is out, hopefully. Potential. Let's see. Next, what do we want to do? Probably snip these so we can get the wires out of the way. And that's only, and you gotta be really careful. Luckily I've got these little tiny cutters, almost like a fingernail cutter, which is sometimes what I use to cut these things off, but don't cut the wires. Tolerances in here pretty tight. Not tolerances, but the space in here rather. Okay, so they're free. Just be careful with this stuff. Helps to work over paper towel or like a hand towel like this one I'm working at. If you look at this one, the screw I need to get to, these wires are just kind of a little bit in the way. Just take your time, be patient. If you get frustrated like I do with stuff like this, so if I start feeling that I'm getting really frustrated, I'll like put the thing down and walk away. That's like the best recommendation I can give you, because, you know, if you're really upset and you start getting angry and frustrated, you'll lose your patience and you'll make a mistake. And you'll damage something in here unintentionally. And then you'll be really, really not happy. You'll be twice as unhappy and frustrated as you were. So, very difficult to work these wires because they're in here pretty tight. They're like formed around the thing and a little stiff. So, alright, I've gotten it there. Now you never want to tug on wires like that. So what I like to do is very carefully get like the tip of your screwdriver and just kind of work it out. Because you don't want to like gouge into your board or anything on the board with your screwdriver. In fact, let's get a flat blade. And these are like electricians' screwdrivers, which I find are very handy for paintball when you have to work on electronics like this and get in somewhere tight. There we go. Oh, what a pain. That's just, you know, what happens when you have to work on stuff like this, unfortunately. This one too. Sometimes there's a locking mechanism on these, so be careful before you like really start bearing down on connectors like this. But if you look, sometimes there'll be like a little clip that you have to release first. So again, just really gently give it a push. Oop. Forgot about that thing. There's a spring on that pops out that holds the button in there. That can also be kind of challenging to work with. And when you release the screw here and this comes down, what's holding this little piece here in place is the tension on the spring. And so when it comes off, just it comes right out. And this is basically what holds the tray in place in the shell. So I did feel the spring hit my leg. So maybe this isn't the best example of how you could, I don't know how you can get that off like any easier. You just have to be really careful. Don't do this at a field for sure. Actually, before I take that off, I'm going to continue to work this connector off very gently. I should have done this before I unscrewed that screw all the way. Sorry to make you sit through all this, but oops, this is not that screw, is it? Oh well, I'm going to try to get through this as best I can here. There we go. Alright, so all three connectors are off. I'm going to take out the last screw here, and I'm going to hunt for that spring really quick. There we go. Okay, so there's the board we just took off, the 7.0 board. Now, if I look down here, there we go. Ah, there we go. That's it. It's like from a ballpoint pen or something similar. But that's it. So this basically sits in this hole. And when you put this back in, you need to align it just right, like that. Then get your board in. There's a little lip right here. This doesn't need to move much. It's just the release to get it out of the shell. But you'll want that snug, at least until you get this thing clamped back down. So here's a replacement board. Try to hold these things on the edge. You don't want to get the oil and everything from your hands on these things, on the connectors, if at all possible. Just be careful with them. So, right now I'm wishing these were a little bit magnetic, but they're not. Just don't screw down on these things too tight. You can crack these boards pretty easily if you're not careful. I mean, it's just like a wafer. So if you're not comfortable doing this, take it to your shop. Find someone who's used to working on computer circuit boards and things that maybe has these tools or is comfortable with this, because this would probably intimidate some people. You may not want to do this. You may feel like you're going to void your warranty or something. This one's going in tight. Just don't want it to move, that's all. So now if you release this, now see the lip on the board is holding it in place. So be careful with that. Now with the board secured and this thing like back into shape, we can try to put these connectors back. So you'll notice these two kind of look similar. This is red to red, white to white, and white to white. But these two kind of look similar. So, but if you look, there's 3 pins in this one, and this has 3 wires. So, and if you look, most of these connectors, they only can go in one way. So look for, like, this has a little keyway right here. If you can see that. There we go. And then this one. Last one. Yeah. Alright. It's in. So, tuck the wires back. And since they're relatively well formed around where they were at, they kind of are going back where they need to be, which is good. So, all right, so that looks good. Just gonna, before I zip tie this all down, I'm gonna test it, just make sure it's working before I put it all back together. But, I mean, the design of this at least allows you to get to these things relatively well. All right, let's see if it turns on. Turns on. So that's good. Now putting this back together, it's kind of fun. You know, I mean, when I was first cleaning this, you know, this piece definitely came off on me just because I think it was loose. Anyway, that's in there nice. Okay. So this is just an anti-static bag for those that don't know. So I'm going to put that board back in there. And they didn't tell me if they wanted this sent back to them or not. Okay, so I got 2 zip ties. And again, you want to make sure this thing gets tucked in there the right way. And you're going to have to trim this. Make it nice and keep it from having problems coming in and out. So don't make it too tight if you have to do this. And just tuck the wires away so that they're not getting hit by anything. But, you know, you're just trying to keep them neat. And then, you know, if this is coming in and out, as you clean it and stuff, you don't want it to get in the way. And like I said, it's kind of ideal if you can keep them to one side like this so that they don't bind on you when you're trying to take it in and out. My tray got stuck one time. I was pretty worried. So that's nice and out of the way, hopefully. There we go. See if it fits. Put batteries in it while we're doing this. Hope this helps anybody who's got this issue. So drop it in. Make sure when you get the lip of the tray here underneath the clip in the front, or it doesn't align right. So here, that kind of, there we go. So it looks like it's seating in there just fine, clipped in just fine. Everything seems in alignment. Let's see, did it stop raining? Hopefully we can get out there and shoot this. All right, so that looks good. I'm gonna try to see if I can get outside, put some paint through this thing, and go from there. All right, thanks. Check out the next video coming pretty quickly.